Jacob Lamb with Guitar Tricks. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at 10 blues guitar riffs, ranging from easy to hard. Now, you can check the link down in the description to get access to a free Ultimate Beginner Guide ebook. It's got things like an essential chord chart, a really simple practice routine, and a ton more. There are other links to useful guitar tools as well, but for now, let's get started on these riffs. Now, one of the really cool things about the blues is that we're playing primarily in a minor key, right? When we think blues, oftentimes we think minor pentatonic. But the blues also brings in a major third, so underneath this minor sound, we have a major note, and this gives it a really unique sound, something like this. So our first riff is really simply one that follows the scale but lands on the third. Here's our tabs on the screen and what the riff sounds like, and we'll also play everything over a backing track. And there are two interesting things we can do to spice that up a little bit. The first is maybe we can play that with pull-offs. That would help us to play it faster, certainly, but the other thing we can do is slide from the minor note to the major note. So I'm going to start on my minor note on that 5th fret and slide it up. Let's see how this sounds with the backing track. And keep in mind, the backing track is in the key of A minor, so all of our riffs will also be. Riff number 2 is slightly more complicated than landing on the major 3. We're going to be looking at double notes. Now, double notes, as they sound, are just when we play 2 notes at a time. Typically, when we're playing the blues, I like doing these on the 2nd and 3rd string. So, without double notes, our riff might sound something like this. With double notes, it would sound more like this. Now, we can either play those notes straight up and down, or we could bend that 7th fret. Like most things we cover, there are 2 ways to do this as well, and you can pick whatever's easiest. We can either use 2 fingers to grab both those notes, or we can bar our fingers just on those 2 strings. Let's take a listen to this one with the backing track. Our third riff here involves some pull-offs and the minor pentatonic scale. Here, we're playing a pattern where we go down 3 notes and then jump up by 2 notes, and then down 3 and up 2 and down 3. So we're descending down the scale, but we're making it last longer. And this is actually one of my favorite ways to end a solo. Here's what it looks like nice and slowed down. So again, you'll see we're moving down by 3, and then jumping up by 2, down 3 notes, jumping up 2, down by 3, up 2. Here's what it sounds like sped up. Let's try that with a backing track, putting it at the end of a couple of riffs to finish a solo off. Let's take a look at our fourth riff, and this one is a chromatic riff. There are notes here and here that actually work surprisingly well when we're playing the blues, and so we're going to kind of take advantage of that a little bit. Here's our fourth riff, and something I want us to pay careful attention to is to kind of rake the notes, rake up to that first note. You'll notice here we're also ending on the major third, but we're using all four of these notes, not in a row, but still all four frets next to each other. Alright, let's take a look at riff number 5, and this is actually one of my favorites. The good old bend and slide. Now, this is typically how I start blues solos because it's such a great way to come in strong. And really simply, there's a bend at the beginning and then a slide up at the end. We're going to start on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and we're just bending that up by a whole step. Now, really simply, we're playing the 5th fret back and forth from the 2nd to 1st to 2nd string again. So, all together so far. Now we just end it with a slide. From our 8th fret, we slide up to the 10th fret. And we can add a little vibrato shaking in there as well. But here's the whole thing together. I like it because we're matching a lot of notes, right? We're bending that first note up to meet the second note. And then we're sliding up to the same note that we played on our first string. So we're playing the same few notes, but we're approaching them in different ways, and that gives it a really creative feel. Alright, we're making great progress. Now for riff 6, we're doing some sliding chords blended with some bass notes. And this one is more of a concept than a riff, but we're still going to attach a riff to it. Now in the tabs here, we've got one of each type of chord that we're looking at, and these are the 3 chords that we use in a 12-bar blues, the 1, the 4, and the 5. But we're also playing some lower bass notes between these chords. So we're sliding chords up and then playing notes out of a scale like the blues scale or the minor pentatonic. Now the really cool thing is that between these chords we can really put in any of the other riffs we've also been learning. It's like a riff within a riff. But we can do some of the double notes between them, right? We could even land on maybe a major third. Let's take a look at our 7th riff here, which are double note hammer-ons. Now, these here are really fun and interesting, and I've also brought them up higher on the guitar so we can have some higher riffs to play as well. Here, we're just playing a few shapes. Our first one, second, third, and then finishing off. Now, you'll notice we're playing 2 notes, but only hammering on one of them for each shape. Now, this one here, we're starting from the 14th and 13th fret, and we're hammering on that higher note from the 13th to the 15th. We're then taking these two notes of our shape and kind of shifting them now. So I've got the 12th and 13th fret, and I'm hammering on the lower note. I'm going to drop everything a string to my 12th frets, and again hammer on that lower note, and now I can drop and end it on that A. So all together. Now, riff number 8 completely breaks the key. This is what it sounds like, and then let's explore what's actually happening here. So here we've got another chromatic idea, and we can think about it in terms of these 5 frets. Now, in these 5 frets, if we number them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're playing the odd numbers and then the even numbers. So we're playing the odd ones on the 3rd string, the even ones on the 4th string, the even ones on the 3rd string again, and then the odd ones on the 4th string. Right, so odd and even kind of between these two middle strings. We're finishing it off with a little double note on the 5s, a slide, and we land on the root. So those double notes on the 5th fret, slide from 8 to 7 on the 3rd string, again getting that bluesy sound in there, and then finish it off. This 9th riff is very similar to riff number 2, where we walked down 3 notes, up 2, down 3, up 2. The difference this time is we're playing that diagonally from the high frets of the high strings down to the lower frets of the lower strings. Something like this. What we're doing here is working through the 5 positions of the minor pentatonic. We have the 5th position up here. We're sliding into the 4th position, sliding into 3rd, 2nd. From here, slide into 1st, and finish it off. We finally come to riff number 10, and this one's a doozy. We've got a blend of bends and hammer-ons and pull-offs and some string skipping, but we can break this down into 3 shapes. Shape number 1 goes like this. We've got a bend from the 7th fret, and then really simply, we hammer on and pull off 5, 8, and 5 on the 2nd string. Now, that doesn't seem difficult, so what's the catch? Well, the catch is that we need to do that really fast and several times in a row. Now, this is shape 1 of 3, and all 3 shapes are like this, so you can set an amount of times you want to play each shape before moving on to the next one. Shape number 2 is the longest of the 3 shapes. We bend the 8th fret of the 2nd string, grab the 5th fret of the 1st string, walk down, and then bend again the 7th fret of that 1st string, and walk back and forth on that 2nd string. So all together, it plays like this. Okay, so again, we want to speed that up. This is one I have a lot of trouble with. For some reason, I just can't seem to play it very clean without making other strings play as well. It's hard, but something that I'm doing here is actually when I'm moving back and forth on that second string, I'm typically doing it with hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now, the third shape is a lot shorter than shape number 2, but we do have to skip a string. We bend, again, that 7th fret on the 3rd string, and we jump all the way up to the 5th fret of the 1st string. And then we just come down 8 to 5. Now, there are 2 ways we can do this. We can either play each shape 4 times, or we can play each shape once before we move into the following shape. That's probably the hardest way to do it, but it's also probably the most varied. You've got a lot of notes quickly. I always like to end that on the 7th fret of the 2nd string. Let's see what this one sounds like with the backing track. Nice and slow. And then fast. So there are 10 blues riffs, and leave a comment below about the one you found the most enjoyable or the most difficult to play. Remember in the description that you can grab the free Ultimate Beginner Guide as well, and there are a lot more lessons at guitartricks.com. We'll see you in the next one.